Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Political Ray. I hope everybody's having a fine Thursday morning. It is a little bit foggy here, but I like it that way. I like it. Makes the mornings a little bit more better, in my opinion. Just pretty to me. But anyway, I digress. Welcome back. We are live every morning, 7:30 Eastern. Appreciate you coming and checking it out. But we are live just ahead of the Rumble lineup from 9 a.m. all the way to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, anyway. We got some stories. We've got Trump Tower being vandalized by some eco-friendly peoples, as they call themselves. Okay. Tulsi Gabbard refers some people to the DOJ over some leaks within the Intelligence Committee. We'll get into that. And we've got another incident in Maryland from an illegal alien, and where's the outrage from Mr. Van Hollen, who is very adamant about trying to bring back an MS-13 gang member back to the United States, but when there's a heinous crime that happens within his state, he's nowhere to be found. We'll get into that. And several states are suing Trump over the tariffs, claiming that he doesn't have the power to do so and that it has to go through Congress and blah, 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 blah. But we'll get into that too. And there's another lawsuit over the men's and women's sports issue coming out of Minnesota. So we'll get into this first story. And this one's just going to be, and this is what should be a good disciplinary consequence that should happen to somebody who vandalizes personal property. Now, a personal opinion, me being, look, if it's defacing value of property, they pay some kind of fine to help pay for the damages that they caused. Depending on the severity, spray painting something like windows, like the windows of the Tesla dealership that I covered yesterday, slap them with a fine, put an arrest record on them, slap them on the wrist, give them a fine, make them pay for the damages that they caused. Something like keying a Tesla, I think they should go to jail. Now, there's a lot of people. This was at Trump Tower. They were defacing his 45th president plaque that he has in the lobby. And my personal opinion on this one, it was spray paint. Make them pay for them cleaning it up. If the plaque has to be replaced, what have you. I don't think a lot of people are calling for this person to go to jail. Personally, I don't think that jail warrants in this situation. Perhaps they do it again, then maybe we can warrant some jail time. But if they don't have any kind of previous record on them, what have you, I think slapping them with a fine, making them pay for the damage, I think that's sufficient. But there does need to be like an arrest record, arrest them, have that on their record, make them pay for their damages, what have you. But we'll take a look at this clip, and you can tell me what you think. I think jail time, especially for like a first offense, tell them not to do it again. If they do it again, you're going to face jail time. That's just what I think. Make it a deterrence, but you let me know what you think. Let's take a look at this clip here.
What a fucking piece of shit, bro.
Anyway. So this person is a supposed climate activist. Now, again, I will say my opinion. Give them an arrest record. Make them pay for the damages. That kind of thing. As far as... the Democrats are the ones... These are the same people that pushed the EV mandates. And now they don't like Trump because climate change, which used to be global warming, but now it got changed to climate change because the global warming didn't fit their narrative anymore, so they changed the name of it. That's besides the point, but this person claims that Trump is hurting the environment, blah, 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 even though that he's part of Tesla, which I have my own opinions. Everybody knows about that, about Tesla and the EVs, and I think that they hurt the planet more than they actually help, because just the damage to the environment and the planet that Tesla does, any EV, the cost to the planet just to make that vehicle has to be on the road for roughly 150 years before it just makes up for the damage that it did just making the vehicle itself. So, that being said, I think this person's stupid, and they should get a fine, pay for the damages. If they do it again, maybe that would warrant some jail time. That's it. Let him go on about his business. He probably did arrest it. Security came and took him.
Don't touch him.
They probably called the cops.
Do not touch him.
Do not touch him. Just to base personal property. He's going to get arrested.
Are you police?
Yes, I am.
Name and badge number?
Lieutenant Judea.
Name and badge number. Get bent, dude.
Badge number?
I don't have badge.
It's like these people,
What police force are you with?
they don't think that there's any kind of personal responsibility that takes place when they do crap like this.
This is
You're
your
going to
country.
have to face the consequences.
This is
if
your
you
Everybody's
gotta
damage
back out.
personal property.
This is
Everybody's got
our
to back out.
country.
Everybody's got to back out.
This is our
I don't
planet.
understand why they
This
think
is
they're
our
above
country.
the law, what have
our
you. I
planet.
mean, maybe if he was in a position
cannot
of
ruin it
power like
without
other
comment.
Democrats, he wouldn't have to. But
They
that's
are
just not
ruining
how
the
it goes.
planet for profit.
Which police force are you with?
And wait, me.
What's your badge number?
This guy's following. He's still trying to get badge numbers and whatnot.
Judea, how do you
These
spell
guys, they're probably just private security. Maybe a couple of them are off-duty officers. A lot of off-duty officers do private security. Anyway, give him a fine. Maybe, unless it's not his first offense. If he's done crap like this before in the past, then send him to jail. He's going to have an arrest record. I'm sure that they called the police. He's going to have an arrest record. He's going to be fined. He'll probably have to pay for the damages, which in most cases he probably won't pay anyway. Anyway, that's all I got for that one. We'll go ahead and just move on to Tulsi Gabbard here now. This is from the Post Millennial. Tulsi Gabbard refers two intelligence professionals to the DOJ for prosecution over leaks to the Washington Post and New York Times. Good. Look, I'm going to ask everybody a question here. What is your opinion on what should happen to leakers? Me, depending on it, the same thing with the previous story. Depends on the severity of what the leak actually is. I'm going to say if a leak is coming from the intelligence community, it's probably pretty severe. Now, I think that this is justified. I think that she should have sent these up. I hope that they get the book thrown at them. Anybody, especially classified information that gets leaked, should have to face the consequences. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Ray, what about Pete Hegseth? Well, there wasn't any actual classified information from what I saw. President Trump has come out and said there wasn't in the first signal leak, and the second one, there's no proof to it, and they're just talking. So, there's that. But Tulsi Gabbard, from the Post Millennial, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, on Wednesday referred two members of the intelligence community for prosecution by the Department of Justice. The allegation from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence was that the two intelligence professionals had leaked classified information, stuff that could be damaging to the United States, put, agents in harm's way, perhaps military in harm's way. That kind of stuff cannot happen. Okay? These people who work that have these lines of work, they put their lives in danger every single day that they go out into the field. And I don't want a security leak happening that could harm them. Anyway, the move, said an official, should serve as a warning. This comes as the Department of Defense has suffered leaks intended to harm Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. The White House has stood by Hegseth despite calls from the leftist media for his termination. And again, a lot of this stuff about Pete Hegseth that's coming out, a lot of it has to do with the fact that these are disgruntled former employees. What do you think? It's like this. If you talk to an ex-girlfriend, say your friend talks to an ex-girlfriend that you used to have, or ex-boyfriend that you used to have, either or, whatever. Do you think that person is going to have good things to say about you? 9 times out of 10, they're not. So I don't really tend to believe a former disgruntled employee is going to say anything nice about Pete Hegseth. Donald Trump said that when they came into office, there was going to be a lot of firings. the federal government was going to be cleaned up. There's a lot of wasteful spending, and he's just doing that. And now a lot of these former employees are disgruntled, and they're going to be talking out against this administration, namely Pete Hegseth in this circumstance. That being said, let's go back to this. Let's see. The New York Times ran an article claiming that Hegseth had sent information regarding a forthcoming strike on Houthi rebels to personal contracts, such as his wife, over the Signal app. So the guy trusted his wife. They talk about that like it's a bad thing. Anyway, the move, said an official, should. Oh, I already read that part. Never mind. Let's see. In an exclusive report, Fox News Digital revealed that they had learned from ODNI that, the intelligence community professionals allegedly leaked classified information to the Washington Post and the New York Times. They also reported that a third person will also be referred to the DOJ for criminal activity. Good. I like to see this kind of stuff. But anyway, let's see. Politicization of our intelligence and leaking classified information puts our nation's security at risk and must end. Yes. She articulated it better than I did. That's the point I was trying to make at the start of this. But anyway, let's see. Gabbard said to Fox News Digital, those who leak classified information will be found and held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Today, I referred two intelligence community leakers to the Department of Justice for criminal referral, with a third referral on its way, which includes the recent illegal leak to the Washington Post. These deep state criminal leaks classified information for partisan political purposes to undermine President Trump's agenda. That's what it is. Just because you don't like somebody does not mean that you can just do whatever you want willy-nilly. President Trump was voted into the presidency by the popular vote and the Electoral College. I said it before the election happened that I said I think he's going to take all 7 of the swing states. Not to toot my own horn, but I was right on that. He has a mandate. He's doing what he said he was going to do, and I'm here for the ride. Okay. So, she noted further that she looks forward to working with the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate, terminate, and prosecute these criminals. The referral comes after an internal review. Look, when you take these positions of intelligence, within this intelligence community, I'd imagine there's a lengthy amount of paperwork that you have to read through, sign, saying that you're not going to leak this kind of stuff. You go through background checks, what have you, all kinds of stuff. I'm sure, there's no doubt in my mind that these people have to sign something that's saying that they will not leak this stuff because it can hurt America. It can put agents in danger, military personnel in danger, all kinds of stuff, what have you. It hurts the nation and puts us at risk. This stuff there shouldn't be leaks, especially from the intelligence community. There's some leaks that I will tell you that I'm probably okay with. I'm not saying leaks across the board. I'm saying like whistleblowers, things that don't have like national security involved with them. I'd probably be okay with. This I'm not. I think that they should be prosecuted. Like I said, there's probably lengthy documentation that they had to sign saying that they would not do stuff like this. So they're going to be prosecuted, and rightfully so. Anyway, that being said, we'll go ahead and move on to now Maryland. There's a person. This is also this is from I think this is from Fox News. Let's see. Now, yeah, Fox News. Illegal immigrant charged with murder of Maryland mom days after Von Hollen's return from El Salvador. This is a prime example of, I talked about this before when Van Hollen went to El Salvador. Where was his outrage for people that were being hurt in his community, within his state, that were being hurt by illegal aliens in his state? Now, the nation as a whole, and I've said this 100 times, I'm going to say it 100 times more just because I want to burn it into everybody's brain, because it's burned into mine. $150 billion a year on the low end is what it costs taxpayers to fund the illegal aliens within this nation right now. Now, the high end of it is over $400 billion. That's a lot of taxpayer dollars being wasted, in my opinion, on people that are not supposed to be here. I don't have a problem with people coming into this country. Do it legally. I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to fund illegal aliens in this country. I don't want it. I think I spend way too much in taxes. This is one of the things that raises them. And I think taxation is theft. That's just my personal opinion, but I still pay them because I don't want to go to jail. Excuse me. Okay, let's see. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement charged an illegal immigrant with the murder of a mother in Maryland on Wednesday, just 5 days after Senator Chris Van Hollen returned to the state from his high-profile El Salvador visit to try to retrieve a deported alleged MS-13 member. This person is not a good person. He does not care about his constituents. If you live in Maryland and this guy is your senator, you write a letter, make a phone call. This guy does not care about you. He wants to bring back an MS-13 gang member who has been alleged with human trafficking, drug usage, like drug trafficking. He's met up with different MS-13 gang members. The guy has a rap sheet. The guy he's a wife beater. His wife had a restraining order put out on him. That's a whole different. I mean, I have my opinions about the wife. I think she's, in it for something else, but that's just, I'm not going to get into that. I think I've already talked about it, but this is just my point. The guy doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about his constituents. And this proves the point. The other person, the other person that was murdered horribly by an illegal immigrant from El Salvador, he didn't even bother visiting. Didn't talk about it, nothing. But now this has happened, and where's his outrage? He's so hung up on bringing back an MS-13 gang member who he claims didn't have due process. He did. Go look it up. This guy he's had two different immigration judges say that he can be deported. He's had due process. You can argue with me if you want about the fact that he had a stay order, but that was the only, and it was just that he couldn't be deported to El Salvador. That was it. That was the only thing. You can make that argument, but I don't think that holds much water. Anyway, ICE arrest that person's name, 23-year-old Guatemalan national, on April 5th in Charles County. He was later charged on April 23rd after the body of Lesbia Ramirez Guerrera from La Plata was discovered buried near a state forest. These people don't have any remorse either. Again, I will say, where is Van Hollen? Where is his outrage for this family? For this person who was murdered in his state by an illegal immigrant? Where's he at? It's frustrating. It's infuriating. It doesn't surprise me that he's silent on it. Maybe he'll come out today. This story that just dropped yesterday. Maybe he'll come out today. I hope he does. I won't be surprised if he doesn't, though. Anyway, I said Rose would be fully prosecuted for the alleged murder, according to ICE. When asked by Fox News Digital about prominent Maryland illegal immigration violent crimes as of late, Van Hollen responded after press time Wednesday, saying that with federal and state leaders working together, we've made strategic investments in public safety that have helped reduce violent crime across Maryland for 3 years in a row. But all these stories keep popping up about the illegals committing heinous crimes against your citizens. It doesn't, to me, I don't live in Maryland. I could be wrong, but just from an outsider looking in, doesn't look like he's doing much. I think the guy's going to get voted out. I think his trip to El Salvador was grandstanding. I think it was him. Because look, nobody, unless you were actually in Maryland and you voted for this person, I never heard of him until he made his trip to El Salvador. Neither, I'm going to guess a lot of people didn't hear of this guy either. I never heard of him. A bunch of people never heard of him until he made his trip. He was grandstanding. Plus, he did it on the taxpayer's dime. It was a sanctioned, official trip. So that means it was paid by the taxpayer dollars. There you go. That's your senator. He'd rather have a known MS-13 criminal gangbanger in the United States than protect his citizens. That's just who he is. That's who the Democrats are. Let's see. But more needs to be done because no family should have to endure the pain of being ripped apart by violence. We will continue working to fight crime in all its forms and build a stronger, safer Maryland. I don't believe him. You let me know if you do. I don't believe the guy. Not for 1 second. Regarding the murder, he said, cannot imagine the grief and the pain that the family that Miss Guerrero is feeling right now. I thank all of those in law enforcement who have been part of the extensive search effort and investigation. He added that it is important to respect the rule of law and that courts are meant to provide due process rights for all. Now, I don't believe this guy. I don't for a second. Just because of the fact that he flew. Now, he has been backtracking on this. After a lot of this evidence, and this could have been, look, you can say all you want, but it could have been. I'm not going to say that I think it is, but I think that it could be a high possibility. That this was kind of like, I mean, it could be just a ploy from President Trump. Talking about this person who actually got deported, and then the left came out and defended the guy, calling him a Maryland man and a Maryland father, what have you. And then all this evidence that President Trump and Pam Bondi, they're putting all this evidence out saying that he actually is a gang member from MS-13. There's evidence to support the fact. And could have been something that Trump was like, look, watch this. They're gonna eat themselves over this. It could be. I'm not saying that it is, but it wouldn't surprise me. A lot of people say that President Trump does play 5D chess. This could be possibly one of those things that he does. I'm not saying it is, again, but it's possible. I wouldn't put it past him. Let's see. Family and friends and our community will see her suspected killer and anyone involved in this crime face justice in a court of law. Send him to the El Salvador prison. That's what I think. He's here illegally. He's not a legal resident of the United States. He committed a heinous crime. Send him to that prison. I don't care. I don't. You can let me know what you think. I think that we should just go ahead and send him off. He's alleged, apparently. I think. Anyway. Tariffs are always, they're always making their way back to the news. And now President Trump and his administration are facing lawsuits from several different states over the tariffs. Now, let me just, on the onset of this story, this is, let's see, this is from the AP, yeah. Because the AP is a very reputable news faction. But anyway, let me just share this little tidbit with you. They will claim that Congress is the only one that can make tariffs, and the president does not have the authority to enact tariffs upon other countries. Let me tell you that that's just not true, okay? The Trade Act of 1974 allows the president to impose tariffs or quotas for up to 150 days to address balance of payments deficits. That's one. Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 permits tariffs or other measures if the Department of Commerce finds that imports threaten national security. That's number two. Number three, Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974 authorizes the president to impose tariffs or other penalties in response to unfair trade practices by foreign governments. There you go. I'm just saying. For anybody out there who says that this guy does not have the right to enact tariffs upon another country, he does. Congress actually, I mean, they were the ones that enacted the trade acts, everything else. They actually gave the president the authority to do so. Maybe you can make the argument that the tariffs cannot be permanent. Fine. We can argue that point. But as a base fact, the president does have the authority to enact tariffs upon other countries. Don't be fooled by the left-wing media telling you that he's not allowed to do this, because he is. Anyway, let's get into this from the AP. New York AP, a dozen states sued the Trump administration in the U.S. Court of International Trade in New York on Wednesday to stop its tariff policy, saying it's unlawful and has brought chaos to the American economy. I don't think it has. He's doing this for a reason. You can argue what you want, but the whole basis for the tariffs is to incentivize companies to bring manufacturing back to the United States. That's the whole point of it. A lot of companies are doing it. Honda is specifically going to make its Honda Civic in Indiana now. You've got NVIDIA, who has a $500 billion investment in Texas, making chips and computer stuffs right there in Texas. You've got that. You've got Apple, who has made a $1 billion investment. I can't remember the exact number of it, but Apple has invested into American manufacturing. It's working. Companies are starting to open up factories here, and there was another car company, I forget offhand, but there was another one that is bringing a manufacturing plant. It was the RAV4, the Toyota RAV4. They're building, I forget which state, but they're building a manufacturing plant here in the U.S. to specifically make the RAV4 in the United States to avoid tariffs. I will say, the tariffs are doing what they're supposed to do. This is what Trump wanted, to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States. It's working. Anyway, the lawsuit said the policy put in place by President Trump has been subject to his whims rather than the sound exercise of lawful authority. Okay. Let's see. It challenged Trump's claim that he could arbitrarily impose tariffs based on the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The suit asks the court to declare the tariffs to be illegal and to block government agencies and its officers from enforcing them. Again, I just read you why he has the authority to do so. I think that they're going to lose these lawsuits because he is within his power to enact tariffs upon other countries. A message sent to the Justice Department for comment was not immediately returned. The states listed as plaintiffs in the lawsuit were Oregon, Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maine, Minnesota, Nevada, New Mexico, New York, and Vermont. In a release, Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays called Trump's tariffs scheme insane. Again, why? If you want to call it insane, fine, but back it up. Tell me why you think it's insane. I don't think that they have an argument. I think this is just simply people who hate Trump and want to see him fail at everything he does. They cannot give him a win because they can't let the guy look good in any way, shape, or form. It's not working, though. They keep running off. Look, I'm worried about the midterms, but I don't think that they have a shot in hell as far as winning if they keep this kind of crap up. If they keep coming after Trump with false narratives and what have you, I don't think that they have a shot at all as far as getting the midterms. I hope this is the case, because I do worry about midterms because Republicans tend to get lazy and too relaxed once their candidate is in office. I worry about that. They're coming up, and I hope that they continue with this crap, because if they do, people will be more incentivized to go out and vote during the midterms. Anyway, she said it was not only economically reckless, it is illegal. No, it's not. Baseless claims. Connecticut Attorney General William Tong said Trump's lawless and chaotic tariffs are a massive tax on Connecticut families and a disaster for Connecticut businesses and jobs. How? Look, if you own a business and the tariffs are being put in place, you as a business owner, it's going to help you as far as being more competitive as far as prices for American goods. The tariffs are a good thing. Anyway, The lawsuit maintained that only Congress has the power to impose tariffs and that the president can only invoke the International Emergency Economic Powers Act when an emergency presents an unusual and extra extraordinary threat from abroad. Not true. I just read them to you. Rewind it, go back in this video, look it up yourself. I encourage everybody to do your own research on anything. Do your own research, come to your own conclusions. I just read off why he has the power to enact tariffs. By claiming the authority to impose immense and ever-changing tariffs on whatever goods entering the United States he chooses, for whatever reason he finds convenient to declare an emergency. The president has upended the constitutional order and brought chaos to the American economy, the lawsuit said. I don't think so. Look, my personal opinion is the tariff war that he's got going on with China at the current time. That's why they hate this. They, for some reason, the Democrats play ball with China. I don't know why. They've got a vetted interest. I'm not sure. Maybe there's other reasons they're getting kickbacks from China. I don't know. I don't know what the case may be. But for some reason or another, the Democrats will not. They will not go against China for some other reason unknown to me. That's what I think this is all about. Trump does not want to play ball with China, and I think that's rightfully so. I think that they're gearing up just to take down America, and President Trump is not playing ball with them. I'm all for that. Anyway, I digress. Last week, California Governor Gavin Newsom and a Democrat, sued the Trump administration in U.S. District Court in the Northern District of California over the tariff policy, saying his state could lose billions of dollars in revenue as the largest importer in the country. Look, I would just say Gavin Newsom is an idiot. The guy is stupid, okay? He has completely ruined that state to the point where they can't even manage their own money. He just came out, what was it, a week or two ago, asking the federal government for, I can't remember the exact number. I think it was in the billions, as far as a loan going to California, because the guy can't even manage money for the state. It's how much taxes, if you're in California, you watch this, you let me know. How much do you pay in taxes? I know I lived in San Diego for a little bit. I know it's not cheap. This was back in the early 2000s that I lived in San Diego. It's not cheap there. I can only imagine how much rent, what have you, has increased since then. A single bedroom apartment that wasn't even on the beach, okay? It was a couple blocks away from the beach. Just a single bedroom apartment. This is back in the early 2000s. It was $1,300 a month. I can only imagine what that apartment is nowadays. In 2025, I would have to believe that it's probably upwards around $2,500 a month just to live in a single bedroom apartment. Anyway, I'm rambling on. We'll get back to this. White House spokesperson Kush responded to Newsom's lawsuit, saying the Trump administration remains committed to addressing this national emergency that's decimating America's industry and leaving our workers behind with every tool at our disposal, from tariffs to negotiations. Look, another thing is there's been many countries who have come to the negotiation table over the tariffs. That's another reason why he's put them in place. I mean, like I said before, I think the main reason was to bring American manufacturing back to the States, which it is working. The other reason, we don't have fair trade with these other countries. They're charging us out the butt, and we're not charging them hardly anything. A lot of cases, it was the base 10%. Now, they're starting to come to the negotiation table so that we can have fair trade. Isn't this what the Democrats ran on previously? Didn't they always say they wanted fair and free trade? Okay, so if you've got tariffs, say you've got tariffs with, we'll say, Vietnam, what have you, as an example, and they're charging us 50% on tariffs. Now, this is hypothetical. I don't know the real numbers. Vietnam's charging us 50%, and we only charge them 10% for tariffs. How's that fair and free? Tell me, Democrats. So we come to the negotiation table, and now Vietnam says, okay, well, we'll do a fair and free trade. We'll say 20% on both sides. So Vietnam's charging 20%. The U.S. is charging 20%. That makes it fair and free, right? Tell me if I'm wrong. Even if it's a little bit better, say Vietnam was paying 50, we were paying 10. Vietnam comes back and say, okay, we can drop it to 22%. And the U.S. says, well, okay, well, since you're dropping it down that far, even if it's a little bit fair, and the U.S. says, okay, so 20% to your 22%. I'm okay with that too, as long as it's somewhat close to being fair and free. Is it? Again, that's what the Democrats wanted. This is what Trump's doing. So why are they against him on it? Because they can't give him a win. They will not let him look good in any way, shape, or form. That's what I think. You can let me know what you think. Anyway, so we got Maine as well. Now, this is a different lawsuit, but this is from the Post-Millennial. Now, Maine is suing President Trump and his administration over the fact that his executive order has stated that he does not want men participating in women's sports. This is something I am 100% in agreement with because I think it's dangerous for women. I think it takes away the effort and the work and everything else that women have put into particular sports just to have it taken away by a man. I don't care if you can call yourself a transitioned female, whatever. I don't care. You're still a man. Basic biology, you're a man. And I will say, just as a personal idea, these men in women's sports, they were average male athletes, couldn't compete against other men, so they decided to transition so that they can compete at a higher level against women. Because in every single case you see, these men coming into women's sports completely dominate that space. It's not hyperbole. It's not anecdotal. It's every single time. And I didn't think there was a pool championship tournament, which something I didn't think that would matter as far as men versus women. Honestly, didn't think it would matter. But you know what? The women's national championship pool tournament, there was two men competing against each other for the championship in a women's sport. It make it make sense, because it doesn't to me. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be happening. I'll refer back to the volleyball player who was partially paralyzed for, I think it was just a little bit of a time. But look, she had a volleyball spiked into her face by a guy on the opposing team. This is supposed to be a women's sport, but you've got women getting injured. I go back again to the basketball team. There was a basketball team that was playing against a biological male, a man. 3 players on that team got hurt, ended up having to forfeit the game because they didn't have any, all their backs up were injured. 3 of them got hurt. They didn't have enough to keep the court full. So they end up having to forfeit because they let this guy play on the other team. It shouldn't be happening. It's wrong. It shouldn't be happening. But anyway, I'm rambling again. So we'll get into this story from the Post-Millennial. Minnesota sues Trump admin to keep men playing women's sports. This doesn't surprise me because it comes from Governor Walz, who everybody remembers. Nobody knew the guy until he got put onto the ticket for the vice presidency with Kamala Harris. So this guy says that men should be able to compete in women's sports. I think he's sick. I think he's wrong. This is the same guy that put tampons into men's bathrooms for no reason, because we don't use them. Anyway, the Trump administration is pushing back after Minnesota filed a lawsuit to allow transgender identifying biological men to compete in girls' sports, calling it creepy and anti-woman. Yes, 100% agree. It's creepy, shouldn't be happening. I'm completely 100% behind the administration on this issue. Should not be happening. Anyway, before I start rambling again, let's keep going. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison announced the lawsuit on Tuesday, targeting the Trump administration and the DOJ after the state refused to comply with Trump's executive order keeping men out of women's sports. Ellison said he received notice from the DOJ threatening legal action if the state does not adhere to the order. and the lawsuit seeks to continue to allow transgender identifying biological males to compete in girls' sports within the state. Let me ask everybody a question, okay? Are you okay? Say it was your daughter who has worked very, very hard through her athletic career through high school. And you can say it's not a career, it's just high school, but it is. These kids work very, very hard. I was a student athlete in high school. I can tell you it's not easy. These kids work really hard. And for a woman to work 4 years of her life at a particular sport, let's just take soccer, for example. She works really hard at soccer. She is close. She's like this close to getting a scholarship. But then a male comes into her space, and then that scholarship ends up going to that male because he identifies as a woman. How is that fair to the female? How is it fair to girls to be outdone by males who are average in male sports, but then they transition and now they get to compete and beat the crap out of women? How is that fair to the girls? If it was my daughter, I'd be irate. That's just me. Anyway, I'm not going to sit around waiting for the Trump administration to sue Minnesota. Today, Minnesota is suing him and his administration because we will not participate in this shameful bullying. I think it's shameful bullying that you let women have to compete against men. I think that that's bullying. When you have a male undressing and changing in women's locker rooms, plus, and then after that, they go out and just beat the crap out of women, I think that's bullying. Good sir. Anyway. Oh, let's see. We will not let a small group of vulnerable children who are only trying to be healthy and live their lives be demonized. I don't think that that's the case. I will say it's a personal opinion, but I think that these men who compete in women's spaces were average male athletes, could not compete at a high level on the men's team, so they go to the women. They transition, and then they compete against women, and then they beat the crap out of them. How is that fair? How is that not demonizing women? Anyway, Ellison filed the suit in the U.S. District Court in Minneapolis, arguing that the federal government does not have the authority to dictate gender eligibility policies for state-level athletic programs through executive action. There's argument to be made against that because each state does have its own set of rules, different laws for different states, what have you. There's an argument to be made on that. But if you're somebody who was okay with women getting the crap beat out of them, I'm sorry, you're not a good person. That's just how it is. The White House issued a response to the lawsuit with spokesperson Harrison Field telling, "Why would a grown man sue the Trump administration to allow other biological males to participate in women's sports? This is creepy and anti-women." 100% correct. Yes. Again, he articulated it way better than I did. You're allowing biological males to participate in women's sports, creepy and anti-woman. Yes. Women, let me ask the women, how do you feel about this? All the strides that you'd made for women's rights, now it's all just being disintegrated by these men who identify as women. How is that okay with you? How is that not degrading? Again, all the strides that you've made for women's right, women's equal opportunity, what have you. How is that okay with you? That a man can now come into your spaces and just completely dominate and take over. It doesn't make sense to me. Somebody let me know. I don't know. Anyway, this makes Minnesota the first state to take legal action against the DOJ over potential funding cuts tied to transgender participation in sports. Maine previously sued over similar funding threats from the Department of Agriculture, with a federal judge later ruling against the freeze. The DOJ has already filed suit against Maine, and U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi indicated Minnesota could soon face similar action. Okay. Look, just don't let men in women's sports. How hard is that? I don't know if anybody remembers, but the Gavin Newsom has his little podcast now. And who did he have? Was it Tucker? Was it Charlie Kirk? I forget. But he had the person on. They talked about the transgender in women's sports. They talked about men in women's sports. And he said that it's not fair to women. He outright said it. It was not fair to women. But then he went back and said what we have to think about the transition male and their safety. No, you don't. Again, I will say this is just my personal opinion, but I think that the majority of these men in women's sports, they're just average athletes who could not compete against the other men. So they go over and transition to become a woman, and they beat the crap out of the girls. That's just my opinion. But we're looking at Minnesota. We're looking at California. We're looking at many states. But they are the top two that could be on notice because we've been communicating with them. This from Pam Bondi. So I'm okay with that. I don't think that men should be competing against women in their sports. I don't. And when President Trump put out the executive order to stop it, I was 100% fine with it. Again, you can argue there's an argument about state level laws, what have you. There's an argument to be made. But why not just keep the men out of the women's sports? It's a safety concern for the women. It takes away hardworking individuals' strife and their hard work, what have you, that they've competed at a high level for 4 years, and then as soon as a male decides to transition to a female, then that all that hard work and sacrifice that those women have made, it just goes out the window. So you tell me how that's fair. I don't think it is. But you let me know what you think. That's all I've got for today. I appreciate you hanging out with me on this fine Thursday morning. You can follow me here on Rumble. You can also subscribe on YouTube if you want. I don't know why you would. I'm here on Rumble live, 7:30 Eastern every single morning, Monday through Friday. Just ahead of the Rumble lineup. You can also follow me on X at The Political Ray. Again, I appreciate everybody hanging out with me, and I hope everybody has a great day. God bless and take care of each other.